back live here on the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's live show. We'll talk injuries, quarterbacks, and preview against the Eagles, which sums up most of what people want to talk about here. We'll go into the latest on Dak Prescott. Some additional updates came out after our video last night, so we'll revisit that. It's certainly not good news. Do you think Dak Prescott will end up playing again? This is not what you want the Cowboys to do with Dak Prescott. What do you think they will end up doing with him? They have not put him on IR yet. I would be frankly concerned if they didn't. That seems like it'd be a bad idea to not put him on IR, but I digress. Will he play again this year? Y for yes, N for no. 63% voting no, 37% voting yes on this one. Emma says yes. Ken says yes. I could see a scenario where Dallas doesn't commit to either one. They commit to, hey, we'll see, and they do put him on IR. And then you get 5 weeks from now, and they've won 1 or 2 games. And it's like, okay, we know how this is going to go. Y for yes, N for no. Get those answers in for me in the comments of today's show. 64% right now voting no, which I think is actually probably pretty decent, like just straight up odds on what will end up happening. So we'll see. Y for yes, N for no in the comments of today's video. Will Dak play again this season? Y or N? 65% now voting on the no side. I do think this is closer. I kind of mentioned it. I think it was on the Tuesday video before the news came out. It kind of seemed like more of like an 8-week injury than it was a 4-week injury. And if you're down with him for 8 weeks at that point, what's the point? GKD Records, sneaky rebuild. 2024, one big preseason for 2025. That is the path you're kind of on. It was not the path you meant to take. This team wanted to convince themselves that they could run it back and still be a playoff contender, and it feels like the worst possible outcome for a lot of different players and positions, and all of it kind of turned out that way and went down that way, especially now with the quarterback banged up and your defense banged up and already being 3-5. You're not in a very good spot. At a certain point, you do need as an organization to go, okay, it's time to do some more things here. It's time to play the young guys across the board. Veterans who aren't going to be here, what's the point of, going down that particular path? Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets to your next big event. And they've also got a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Go over to GameTime.co. Use promo code ChatSports to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, use code ChatSports, that's ChatSports, ChatSports, for $20 off your first purchase. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show, which is also made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best way to get real money sports action. The link will be in the comments and the description of today's show as well. But with over 10 million members, billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments and the description. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. So with Dak out for at least a few games, who do you want to start at quarterback? I do think there's a pretty good possibility that we see both of them. And frankly, I think you're going to be in a spot where you should be at least giving Trey Lance some playing time, even in just packages, which, if you have 2 QBs, you have no QBs, blah, 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 you need to get Trey Lance some playing time. Who do you want to be the main quarterback? I will not give my answer I will reveal that in a little bit on today's show, so stay tuned for that. TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. It's the Cooper Rush Hour. Ecuador man is typing in me. Again, that is attempted murder. The Cowboys' offensive line is allowing the 7th highest individual pressure rate, like where they blame the offensive line for it, which normally takes out the super mobile QBs because they're the ones that you live with it. So I am old and slow and short and out of shape. You put me behind that offensive line, you say, have fun, here's Jalen Carter. That's attempted murder. I do want to be clear on that. Pick your QB, TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. We will come back to this more in depth as an entire portion, actually, of today's show, the route that I would rather see this Dallas Cowboys team pursue. Option Pawar, a $5 super chat, says, let Dak deal. Who has done Dak the most dirty this year? The O-line, receivers, front office, or the play calling? I think when you're assigning, and I think I'll answer this as beyond just even the quarterback, the group of this organization, this team, this coaching staff, this roster, this front office, the part that gets the most blame has to be the front office. The O-line hasn't played great this year. The receivers, especially outside of Lamb, have not done a consistently good job. The coaching staff has not done a good job. The quarterback hasn't done a good enough job, especially with what we saw last year to this year. The defense has not done a good job. The front office set this up as an all-in year, but they weren't actually all-in. They made 0 all-in moves. In fact, they dragged their feet until the very last second to make any real moves, frankly. The front office shares the lion's share, or owns the lion's share of the blame this year. And I don't think that's really debatable. I think Mike needs to be fired. I also feel bad for Mike. He was not put in a position to succeed. He embraced the failure with open arms, but the path was set by the offseason. Chark 4288. Hi, Tom. Hope you're doing good. Thank you, Chark. Do you think Jerry will use the injuries as an excuse to bring back Mike McCarthy next season? Or do you think McCarthy is still gone? Hopefully we get Ben Johnson as a head coach. I'd be pretty shocked if they just let Mike McCarthy come back, because part of the reason why they kept McCarthy this year was that they did this approach of, we don't want, and they've said this before because it's a stupid mindset, they don't like paying coaches not to work with them because they are cheap. That is a fact. But Mike isn't under contract anymore. This would be them actively choosing to retain him, negotiating a new contract. I don't even know if Mike wants to deal with that. He might be asking for a lot of money to come back and do it for someone who's like, well, what about a 1-year prove-it deal? How does that benefit anybody? We just did that. So I don't think Mike's going to be back. I also don't think you're going to get Ben Johnson. I would love to get Ben Johnson. That is my ideal candidate. I'll bring Robert Saleh in as his DC or whatever DC he wants, I suppose, because I would like to give my coach some power there. I would love to go after the young, innovative offensive mind from outside the organization, which this team has never done. I think that'd be a fun idea to try for once. What will they do? They'll probably hire a retread, which I hope is Mike Vrabel and isn't someone like a Ron Rivera or something stupid. Now, this is today's Super Chat menu. We'll call it the Happy Hour Super Chat menu. So $10. Little beer cheers action. Why not? $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $500 custom Cowboys. So cheers to you, Chark 42288. Bottoms up to you, my friend. We will preview this week's game. The Cowboys are touchdown underdogs for the first time since 2022, by the way. That's not a fun place to be. Who you got? C for the Cowboys, E for the Eagles. C or E, let me know in the comments section of today's video. Give some shout-outs here as well. See, Brian's got the Cowboys. Hey, if you're going to just try to speak it into existence, I get it. I get it. Steven says E. Jose says E. Crazy Saint says E. Let's be real. Chris Romero. Noah. Ratio. Ecuador says, sucks the Eagles. TKG. Want C, but I think E. sadly. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well, unfortunately. Don't like saying it, not going to enjoy it, but I don't think any of us would be surprised by that one. C for the Cowboys, E for the Eagles. Let me know in the comments of today's video. We got a $2 super chat from Ecuador Man. I want Ben Johnson, but I think it's Witten, SMH. I am very scared of the scenario that does exist at least somewhere in the multiverse, and I hope this isn't the universe that Jason Witten becomes the Cowboys head coach in 2025. It exists in one of them. I hope this is not the timeline we live in. I think it'd be a terrible idea. Jerry would frame this as we're getting our Dan Campbell. The critical difference there is Dan Campbell spent a decade as an NFL head coach before getting, or as an NFL coach before getting to be a head coach. I really hope that doesn't happen. Like, I would be profoundly worried if that's the way things went, because it's just a bad idea. As I've said before, with other teams, I did it with the Colts and Jeff Saturday. I did it with Houston when they were looking at Josh McCown. Got to have experience. Knowing football, which Jason Witten absolutely does, is not a defining reason why you can hire somebody. That is the baseline resume requirement. It's not why you hire someone. When you're doing like the minimum job application stuff, went to college, okay, that you don't hire someone only because they went to college. That's head coach is not an entry-level job, which is what Jason Witten's looking at right now. Tight end coach? Sure. Not a complaint in the world right there. Head coach? No. That is a bad idea. So I am worried as well, Ecuador Man. I am. Now, if you are ready for us to start today's live show, hit that like button. We're not even at 69 likes yet. It's kind of sad. I like getting at least 69 likes because it gives me something that isn't going to make me dead inside. Like the video. If you haven't already done so, it should be a staple for all of our Cowboys Report videos, live or on demand. Just like it. It's free, simple, it's easy. Alja Pawar, why have 70 and 78 regressed so much? Also, why has the coaching staff regressed so much? It's as if they can't call good plays. I think your second question, in part, answers the first question. Steele's been better than what he was last year, but he still regressed from what he was back in 2022. Steele's had some good games and some really, 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 really ugly games, and it's super frustrating. Seems like the coaching staff doesn't trust their offensive line, and I think that's kind of trickled down, to the offensive line play. You keep getting told, hey, we don't trust you, we don't trust you, we don't trust you. It might do something bad for your confidence when that's the kind of the game plan going in each week. Steele, I still don't think Steele is... He was never a great pass protector. He was a serviceable pass protector and a good, if not great, run blocker. Last year, he was a bad pass protector and a bad run blocker. This year, he's been more of a good-ish run blocker and a sometimes serviceable, sometimes bad pass protector. 70's regression here is he's old. It's time. This is it for 70. We'll talk about him in a little bit, by the way. We don't wipe these 304s. Does Mingo stop Dallas from drafting McMillan? I hope not. I have doubts. Would anyone be surprised if the Cowboys have a chance? I think that's the Arizona wide receiver, Tederaria McMillan, who's awesome. Or even Luther Burden out of Missouri, if you want to go down that path. Probably not Travis Hunter. It's probably a different conversation altogether. And also it might not be on the board for you in the first place, depending on where you end up finishing here. Would anyone be surprised if they went, yeah, we just traded for Jonathan Mingo. We don't need to draft a receiver in round one, and they'll go fill a different need. Would anyone be surprised by that? I would not. Coming up on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report, we'll break down some Cowboys news, injury-focused, of course. We'll talk Trey Lance versus Cooper Rush, who should start at quarterback for the Cowboys moving forward. Cowboys versus Eagles preview, and a mailbag. Get on the show via hashtag Cowboys or by super chatting. We have passed the 201,000 subscriber mark. Thank you all so much. 201.5 is the next goal in mind. Help us get there, ideally before kickoff of Sunday's game. Free Cowboys videos each and every single day right here on the channel, oftentimes multiple per day, so don't miss out. Subscribe for free. Let's talk injury updates here. We're going to begin with the big one, that's Dak Prescott, and this is by no means a good one, to be clear. Dak has the fancy medical term from people who chose to spend extra years in college, and not people who had to spend extra years in college, is partial avulsion of his right hamstring, which the normal person term is part of the tendon has been tore off the bone, which isn't good. Of note, I saw him like, that sounds familiar. I remember what it was now. Tyron Smith had a full avulsion injury back in 2022. He did that in August, kind of at the end of training camp, going into week 1. He did not return until week 13 of the NFL season. Smith needed surgery to repair that. Unclear if Dak Prescott ends up needing surgery to repair that or not. If he does need surgery, it's over. It maybe should already be over as we get to here in a second. That's a season-ending injury. If it had happened week 1, it probably wouldn't be a season-ending injury. But now that you're already deep into the year, you're already into week 10, if you do go down that path, it's not going to work out. It's going to end up being a season ender. If he doesn't need the surgery, there is that outside chance of, hey, maybe it's more like 6 or 8 weeks, and if you're still alive, he could come back and return. But whether the surgery is the case or not, and it seems like Dak's trying to find additional options to not go down that path, which doesn't surprise me. This is where you as an organization need to put the long-term stuff in front of the short-term stuff. And this is where, frankly, you need to protect your quarterback from himself. Because I know how Dak Prescott operates. Remember when he had the weird shoulder injury coming back from the broken ankle? Yeah, he kept throwing a football when he probably shouldn't have been. And he couldn't throw it normally, so he threw a tennis ball into his couch over and over and over, and a football into his couch because he just couldn't not do stuff. And that led to the wear and tear baseball-style injury because turns out when you're throwing like this, it looks a lot more like a baseball motion. And that's what happened. Trying to rush this injury back seems, and I think very much is, stupid. Don't go down that path. Play it smart. I know you haven't been a smart organization as of late, but let's face reality of the 2024 campaign. It's not going well. This is where you got to be the bigger person for this analogy and say, Dak, just get healthy. It's okay. It's not your fault. Don't let the competitor potentially cause more issues to his own body. So will Dak Prescott play again this season? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now, you're not going to see Dak this week, the next couple weeks. Tight turnaround for the 5th game again on Thanksgiving, which also seems, or 4th game, which seems super unlikely as well. Look, you're going to see Cooper Rush, and I hope you see Trey Lance too. Yeah, we'll spend a lot more time on this on a future video coming up here in a little bit. I don't really see many downsides to playing Trey Lance. Like, if you were 5-3, maybe this would be a different conversation. If you were playing at a super high level and your quarterback looked like the 2023 version and not the guy we've seen so far this year, and your defense wasn't also decimated, it would probably make more sense just to try to weather the storm with Cooper Rush, who I think does do a good job of weathering the storm. He's now coming into a situation where the boat has already capsized. There's only so much you can do at that point as a backup QB. You might as well go with the mystery box idea and see what Trey Lance has for you. But that's more in depth for a future time. We got more injury stuff to discuss here in a second. But today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is the place for any and all last-minute tickets to your next big event. Game Time is a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you the best deals on the great seats. So don't waste time searching through all those different tickets. It is simply curation designed to save you even more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You can use the all-in pricing feature to see your total cost up front, so there are no surprise hidden fees at checkout. You can get the game time guarantee on all tickets. Of course, it's natural. Game time guarantee is this. You get 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account over at GameTime.co. Use code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Cowboys injuries I want to look at here. These have been the guys that are on the injury reports. We won't spend much time here on Nick Vigil, Eric Kendricks. Those guys have missed early practices, played. Trayvon Diggs heading in the proper direction. I think Tyler Guyton will be okay. We'll spend some time on the offensive line. We obviously mentioned Dak Prescott. Wanye Thomas in concussion protocol seems very, very unlikely on that front. The good news here, then more bad news. We'll do the bad news sandwich today. Does sound like Micah Parsons is trending towards a return, barring, knock on wood, a setback today. After he missed 4 games with a high ankle sprain, it seems like he's going to be able to make that return and be out there for the Cowboys. And as this coaching staff and players involved, they don't want to quit on the season quite yet, and it's up to the coaching staff to make sure that does not happen. This is somebody you need out there on defense. You've missed a lot of your best players on defense this year. Micah's certainly one of them. You need him back out there. You also would like to get Deron Bland back out on the football field. I don't know when that's going to happen. He is still not back at practice. Continues to work with the rehab side of things in the open available media sessions. That's bad because we are now about to be a month removed from the last time Deron Bland actually practiced. Look, Stephen Jones had said there was a setback. He said it was just soreness. I clearly think it was worse than that. And when they activated Deron Bland and put Oruwari on IR with his back injury, it was very much a, okay, cool, he's back. And then, like, okay, but wait, is he going to practice? And then, no, it was not. He's not practicing. And it felt like he wasn't going to be back in Week 9. At this point, he's not going to be back in Week 10, it feels like. But he would be back at some points this year, which, when that is, I don't know. And the longer it goes, you kind of get right back in the Dak conversation. Is it even worth it to bring him back at that point? Or do you just chalk it up to a lost season and write it off? So predictions. What week will Deron Bland return? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. What week, if any, you can do 2025 if you want, you think Deron Bland will return. I also want to spend some time on Zach Martin. And I don't like the way this is going. It's been kind of clear on the field that Zach Martin is not the same player he once was. Age, injuries, both kind of combining here. His shoulder is now, but it was the back earlier this year. It's been the shoulder the past 2 weeks. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Wasn't out there with the media group on Thursday. They did go inside, so, chances he can do some more stuff Thursday, Friday, etc. But he's just not been the same this year. He's like 5 pressures away from allowing the most in his NFL career, and we're only just now getting to Week 10. This is not the same Zach Martin. And we are very much, as badly as it pains me here, we are very much getting into the, okay, when is it time? The season is already kind of being old yellered, so to speak. But when is it time to say, Zach, we love you, but hey, it's time. It's time. I think that I do typically subscribe to the theory of once you, especially for like a trench player, once you start considering retirement, you start talking about retirement, it's probably when it's time because it's a physical game. Is this Zach Martin's last season? 0 for yes, no more years after this. 1 for no, he'll do at least one more season. vote in the comments of today's show. If it is an injury that prevents Martin from playing, I would at some point this season, and I don't know if you can bench Zach Martin because it's Zach Martin. Like, can you really do that? He's a Hall of Famer. Like, maybe you can have an injury to give him some breather late in the year. I don't know. I would like to see TJ Bass play because I do think in general when it comes to this offensive line and where you're at realistically this season, you need to get your guys into the spots you want them to play next year, which based on their own actions is the left side of your line, through BB at center. And I want to see if TJ Bass can be a right guard option for you. It'd be a silver lining outcome if you were able to see TJ Bass get a handful of starts even this year and have a better feel for what you have in him at right guard. Now, I think your offensive line coach sucks. And I don't think it's an accident that for several of your players, they looked good at training camp when they were more closely working with Duke Manyweather. And then as they get further away from that and more into the Solari stuff, they suddenly look worse. I don't think that's a coinky-dink. But I would like to see Bass get some reps and know if I desperately need a right guard or if I can try Bass for a season at right guard, or if I need a veteran stopgap, or if I need to spend a day 3 or early or late day 2 pick. Who you got in this upcoming game? I have my answer. It's not great. C for the Cowboys, E for the Eagles. Let me know in the comments section of today's show as your votes come in. We don't wipe these 304s. Could Dallas lose out? Record prediction, and you're funny. At least I got that going for me, which is nice. Eagles, Texans, Commanders, Giants, Bengals, Panthers, Bucks, Eagles, Commanders, which by then, one or both of those final 2 games, Eagles and Commanders, the opposing team might not be playing for anything. I think you're a better team than the Giants. I think you're a better team than Carolina. You lose that game against Carolina, that one might be when Mike McCarthy gets fired. The timing is better because you have a Sunday night game. You got a little extra time in between that there. So this point, like the over/under is like 5.5. Like I think you probably steal one of these games. You can play spoiler at some point. You get to be the team that somebody else overlooks, and you get to be the Saints to your Cowboys, which the Saints are the Denver Broncos from that 2018 campaign. I think you will win at least 2 more games this year. Do you win more than that? I don't know. Today's super chat menu is this: $10 for a beer cheers, $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $500 for a custom Cowboys jersey of your choosing. We will get to the mailbag after this next segment. So if you have ideas, thoughts, things you want to vent about, you can do it via hashtag Cowboys or via Super Chats. For today's show, I want to discuss what the Cowboys should do at the quarterback spot with Dak Prescott out. Who do you want to start at QB for the majority of the season? TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. I'm about to give you my answer and why, but I want to hear from you guys in the comments of today's show. I vote you start Trey Lance. And I got 5 different reasons and explanations why. The first one is at this point in your season, it is actually okay to try to figure out what the mystery box is. The mystery box could be anything. It could be a boat. It could be tickets to a comedy show. You're probably not going to get a boat. But you know what the Cooper Rush box is. We know what he is. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. There's a reason why he's been the quarterback 2 for this Dallas Cowboys team. There's also a reason why when he was a free agent, there was no tangible, real interest in him. Nobody wanted Cooper Rush to be their starter. Even when he was coming off a year where he won 4 games, a year before that too. Nobody asked him like, hey, let's make Cooper Rush our starter. Nobody wanted that. He is a fine game manager. He will weather the storm. He will be a little bit less accurate than your starter, but he's not going to be, in most cases, a back-breaking disaster. But we don't know what Trey Lance is. And Trey Lance could be more than that. He could also be worse than that. As we'll get into, is that necessarily that big of a downside at this point in the campaign? Trey Lance wasn't that great in the preseason, but it's really hard for a coaching staff to say he needs reps, he needs playing time, he needs chances. And then when you are presented with a fantastic chance to give said player the reps and the chances, he has not played enough football, and you don't take that chance, is that how you're supposed to, big picture-wise, handle things? I don't think so. Now, there are some downsides to this that we'll kind of get to here in a moment, but the mystery box angle, which wasn't a good argument when it was like he needs to start week 1, or he's your guaranteed 2025 starter, it does make sense when it's conversation about him against Cooper Rush. So do you want to play Trey Lance? It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Go vote. Y for yes, N for no. Reason number 2, I think there are long-term benefits for at least trying this as a potential outcome. I think we can be honest here. Trey Lance is not going to steal this team's starting quarterback job. We'll come back to why I specified this team in a minute. But there is more upside here. The potential benefits you get of playing Trey Lance, seeing what he can be, are better than the Cooper Rush ones. The Cooper Rush range of outcomes, I think, is pretty well known. And it's a bit more in the middle of that bell curve. It's much more of a peak in the center, right? He'll manage the game. He'll be an average-ish NFL backup QB. I don't think he played bad at all against the Falcons. I don't think he was a reason why you lost that game. That was all the self-inflicted mistakes your offense and special teams and coaching staff made throughout that game. He's fine. Fine is not good enough for where this Cowboys team is at. Trey Lance, meanwhile, has a much wider range of outcomes. He could start to play to the potential that so many saw when the Niners took him number 3 overall. Or if he sucks, which is a possible outcome, well, then he's just your tank commander. That's not actually bad either way. Both of those outcomes can actually benefit you. Maybe he nets you a comp pick. Maybe if he plays well and the Raiders get desperate and say, Trey Lance, here's $25 million a year. Here's $20 million. Here's the Gardner Minshew deal all over again. Maybe he shows, I can be your backup QB. You're worried about your quarterback getting hurt again, which is a very valid concern to have. I told that to you guys, when they signed into the deal, before they signed into the deal. That was my number one concern. Maybe he shows he can be your backup QB, and you can re-sign him to a relatively affordable deal and have a solid backup QB in. Or he sucks, and he's just not good, and he's a bust, and he's your tank commander, and you secure a top 10 pick. That's fine, actually. Now, some of your players might not like it, your coaching staff might not like it, but that's something we'll get to here in a second. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. It's available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your guys gets hurt. If a player goes down in the first half and does not return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. I also love their flex play. I can get one of these picks wrong and still cash. Garrett Wilson, more than receiving yards. I love the James Cook rushing yards line. That's just a number that seems silly low, 59.5. Also like Tyrone Tracy against the bad Panthers defense. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Now, a lot of the things we're discussing on today's show are a little bit more bigger picture arguments. One short-term argument is playing Trey Lance gives you running game upside. Your running game has not been very good. Trey Lance's mobility, his athletic ability, you saw it in the preseason, you saw it with San Francisco, his ability to do design quarterback stuff, do those read options, do those options where you can even roll out and pass it as well. Like, you've got a ability to utilize his legs to help your offense and not have Cooper Rush be the one who does a read option in the red zone and fumble, recover it, and then fall down. Don't do that. A mobile quarterback, pretty consistently across the board, boosts your ground game. It makes it better. It also helps the offensive line, or at least the offensive line's sack numbers, which have not been very good this year. The PFF charted number is Dak has faced I think it's the 7th most pressure allowed only by the offensive line, so the quarterback doesn't get any blame for it. It's basically quick pressures, 7th most this year. Having not that mobile Cooper Rush is dangerous back there. Having athletic Trey Lance helps you. And think about the top teams on the ground this year. It's the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. It's the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts. It's the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels, who's able to run the ball, and they've all run the ball pretty well on top of that, beyond just the quarterback side of it. It's the Niners, who, of course, it's the 49ers. They have, like, the best run game in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers, they've also benefited from 8.6 yards per carry from Malik Willis, when he's carried the ball 16 times this year. Plus, they're also a good ground game, because Shanahan and LaFleur are some of my favorite coaches to watch from a design perspective on offense. Your run game sucks, Lance would help you. Now, that's different than the passing game, potential downside, whatever. The run game angle, very real. I don't want you guys to miss out on any Cowboys coverage, so we will always be free here at the Cowboys Report. All you have to do is turn those noties on. Don't miss any Cowboys YouTube video. Number 4, the organizational plan. And I think this is essential. You need to figure out what you want to accomplish. There are, and I think understandably correctly, there's a lot of different parts of this team. The coaches, the players, various scouts, ownership, that probably don't want to give up on this campaign. That they are not under contract in 2025. They are fighting for their jobs. They have mortgages to pay. So I understand if their desire is to play the guy that they think is better. I get that. Is that more important than the big picture? Maybe you're doing the coaching staff dirty if you force them to play a particular quarterback. Okay, I get it. It happens. But you need to decide what matters more to you, big picture, as an organization. I get why McCarthy and company might prefer Cooper Rush. He will take the things that are on time. You can go back and watch all of our Trey Lance preseason stuff. Stuff was there. Stuff was on time. He wouldn't take it. It's the same reasons why Cooper Rush has been quarterback too. If you just want someone to execute the offense, I think Cooper Rush can do that. I also think that if your plan is, hey, Cooper Rush is going to save the season, outside of drastic better impacts from your defense, if it's going to happen, it's Ewing theory, it happens all the time, that seems unfair. Your front office, your organization, has to do some self-scouting here. They need to realize season's not going well. The 3% playoff odds from ESPN without Dak Prescott are not wrong. They were 6% before that. That's not a good thing. Your season was already on the ropes. You were already tucked into bed. Now they turn off the lights and said good night. Your season's cooked. It is. You might not want to admit it, but that's where we're at. They might give you the occasional false hope here, but you're not in a good spot. So is the Cowboys season over, the 2024 campaign? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Number 5, the sunk cost fallacy. If you don't know what the sunk cost fallacy is, it's basically you do something because you already paid for it. Maybe you don't want to do it, but you've already invested in it, so you're going to keep doing it. That's it. I've seen the argument of you made the trade for Trey Lance. You can't waste a 4th-round pick and not play him. You already wasted the 4th-round pick in the end. Look, the Trey Lance trade hasn't been good. I think we can all admit that. Just playing him so you can say you played him doesn't really mean anything to me. The race has already been run. You're probably never going to get proper return on the value that you gave up there. It happens. It's fine. You miss on picks. You miss on trades. It's bad when you only use the draft to address talent in most cases, and it makes it worse when you don't do anything else. That's not really a good reason to play him, to try to get something from your trade. But I think he should play, so I'm fine using that as an argument. I will ignore everything I just said and say, you know what, it's fine. Not an issue. Get something for him. See what he can do. Now that, I don't think, is the sunk cost fallacy. That's, I just want to know what my young guys have across the board. That's not just true for Trey Lance. That's true for a lot of young players on this team. This is the time to show what they're able to do. Got a mailbag coming up here on today's show. You can use hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to skip the line. Transcendent didn't like that I compared Trey Lance to Jaden Daniels. To be clear, no, I didn't. I said that having a mobile quarterback often leads to better results on the ground. The phrase, Trey Lance is like Jaden Daniels, never came out of my mouth. Pay attention closer there, bud. He said he left, so it's probably fine. Use hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat. Skip the line altogether if you have comments, questions, thoughts, things you just want to vent about here. This is a safe space to complain as needed. Now, we got a Super Chat menu on today's show. Plus, Super Chats get you on the show no matter what. $10 beer cheers, $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $500 for the custom Cowboys jersey. Let's go to Tan Fam's question. His Super Chat, we won't put that in the mailbag, but we'll just include it here briefly. I think it's relative here. Tan Fam, late to the stream, Diggs, Bland, Parsons playing. I expect Trayvon Diggs to be out there. I expect Micah Parsons to be out there. I do not expect Deron Bland to play. Barring a surprise change later this week, still seems like a no-go for Deron Bland. But thank you for your Super Chat, my friend. We got a super thanks to get to, actually a bunch of them on today's Cowboys. That's what happens when we don't do a mailbag show on Monday because we have the trade deadline on Tuesday. Tina Young, who did they trade for? Who's this guy? This is in reference to Jonathan Mingo with Double J2288 saying, I'm not even mad that it's Mingo. It's on brand, but it's a 4th. We broke this down in depth on the show. Make sure you guys check it out on the video if you haven't already. You gave a 4th-round pick for a guy you had a 3rd-round grade on, which actually makes me feel worse because why? That's really bad trade return. For a guy that has been very bad in Carolina, has athletic upside. I think Double J228 is right. It's not that you made a trade for Mingo. That's fine. It's what you gave up to get him. Nobody was offering a 4th-round pick for Mingo. The mass consensus around the NFL was that was an overpay. They're not good at trades unless it's veteran players that they're acquiring. Now, those both came in via Super Thanks. It is a feature here on YouTube. Allows you to donate just like you do a Super Chat, except it's on demand. Edit your message. Send it whatever you want to send it. Even if it's F you, Tom. Well, we might have to edit for language. We'll give you a shout-out on today's show. Fernando Garcia, hello, Tom. I think probably what the Jones boys did was to not move the roster that much. They think they have a good team. So the next head coach next year can evaluate, and if necessary, then do the new trades or free agency moves. But either way, it's a terrible plan. This is true, then why is Mike McCarthy still here? If the excuse is not to make moves because the head coach will leave, why not do it already? I agree with this. And I want to kind of mention Fernando and Trevor Duncan's super thanks here in pretty similar categories. Trevor says, Tom, Jerry did all this, about $100 million of cap space. Next year, have a scapegoat on the offseason if you can't even wait that long. I'm willing to bet Jerry Jones fires McCarthy the next couple months, if not sooner. Definitely don't think McCarthy will be back next year. The Joneses will use every shortcoming game result as fuel to fire McCarthy. It's ridiculous what this man is doing in this franchise. He has sole control for now and the foreseeable future. I will say, Jerry has given a lot of power to Stephen Jones and others in this organization. He listens to, I would argue, sometimes too many people. when it comes to decision-making processes, too many voices from outside the organization. In general, with the whole Jerry Jones planning thing, they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted to set themselves up and not commit too many assets this year, and they thought they were good enough to get worse on purpose and still win 9 or 10 games. Coaching staff hasn't delivered. Players haven't delivered. Injuries have hit. And now you're at with where you're at. I don't believe there's a grand conspiracy to sabotage Mike McCarthy so they have an excuse to fire him. They had that excuse already. It was the Green Bay Packers playoff game disaster. They could have fired him. They just wanted to play it right down the middle. And what happens when you play it right down the middle? You land right on the fence and tear stuff. Richard Robinson. If Jerry cans McCarthy during the season, who takes over? Might as well write it out and get a high draft pick. The season is done. Maybe Bones Fossil would be your logical option because that could let Mike Zimmer coach the defense still and Schottenheimer the offense. Schottenheimer takes over on offense, I'd assume, because I don't know why the hell they give the Scott Tolzien as the play caller. I would also guess Zimmer could be a candidate. The dark horse is Al Harris, but I'm honestly at the point where I don't want an interim head coach to come in and go 500 or something and trick the Cowboys into just hiring him. Let's get some new blood in there. And I also, by the way, I like several members of your coaching staff. I like Al Harris. I like Linda Wells. He's your best offensive line coach, even though the coach is your tight ends right now. Let your new head coach pick his staff. Stop doing this thing where every time you make a coaching change or a coordinator change, he has to keep various assistants. Let's stop doing that. That's how you get a disjointed coaching staff. So does Mike McCarthy last the entire season? Pin comment on today's show. Go vote. Y for yes, N for no. Xavier Worthy's burner. This team sets up its players to fail. Well, Wilson's not a good coverage safety. He's not been known to be great in that role. In addition, at least he maximized Mitchell Wilson by playing him in more of a hybrid linebacker role. Additionally, if you know your corners suck at tackling and effort, what are we working on at practice? No one thought of Williams as a top tackler, but you miss his presence in the run game too. On offense, which is great at crosses and in space. Not on slants and hitches. If you wanted a Michael Gallup replacement, you should have drafted a big receiver in the draft. But no, we like our guys. This was Madden. You could be jerrying it and playing the game under your 80 overall players. Wouldn't be bad. This is real life. You can't just make no off-season moves and expect to get better. It's that last part that matters. Your self-explained plan was we're going to make our guys do more with less. Nobody thought that was going to work. This is probably on the more negative range of outcomes spectrum. No one thought that was going to work. No one really believed it outside of hopium and delusionalness, which I think is a word. Your coaching staff has not done a good job. Your front office has not done a good job. These are the results you get. Chris B, this season sucks. Can we just sim the rest? I wish I could. I will be here every Sunday instead. What are you going to do? Makes it not fun sometimes. So, Steven, we know you're candidates for head coach, but if you were the owner, who would you want as GM? Ooh, okay. I'll be honest. I don't really spend that much time pining after GM candidates because I know that you have one already. I'll say this. I think if you just let Will McClay be a real GM, it'd probably be a little bit better. Now, he shares some blame too. I think it's a little bit tough to build a roster with one arm tied behind your back because your owner won't spend any free agency dollars, but it just makes it tricky. I would go to these successful teams. I would look and see, okay, who are the lieutenants in charge in Kansas City? That's Mike Borgonzi, their assistant GM. Who are the other top lieutenants around there in the NFL? I don't know if Ed Dodds has been well regarded before, but I don't know about that one. The Joe Horitz, who I think he's the new Ravens GM. Never mind that there. I think Terrence Gray up in Buffalo could maybe be an option. What worries me about this team is GMs are very heavily hired based on their interviews. Do we trust the Cowboys to interview well? Don't know. Braden, $2. I'm going to the game this Sunday, and it's looking like it's going to be a bad game to watch with how bad we are in the injuries. I thought we had a chance in the offseason. Braden, I'm sorry. Hopefully they pull an upset for you. Hopefully the Eagles fans aren't too big of a-holes. I also hope that you use the Game Time app for your tickets. Game Time is the place to get tickets to whatever event you're going to. Not just football, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time Picks is the new feature. It allows you to filter out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks is curation designed to save you even more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and etc. The Game Time guarantee is this. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, you can get a panel review from your seat in the app before you buy so you know exactly what your view is going to look like. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. From my guy Mark, we paid good guys elite money. We have overrated coaches, poor cap management, won't sign players, and thinks we have great guys all over the team. I think the poor cap management matters. This is a team that pretty consistently waits and then pays the guy the money that they wanted in the first place. Between the Tank Lawrence contracts, the CeeDee Lamb contracts, the Dak Prescott contracts, the Amari Cooper contract, initially, you cost yourself tens of millions of dollars every year by waiting. That's another player you could have signed. Chris B. Mike's first year, Dak gets hurt. Mike's last year, Dak gets hurt. It's tough. It is tough. I would also argue that even before those injuries happened, the vibes were not good. Funnily enough, both those years, your defense was among the worst in football. Different reasons maybe, but they were among the worst anyway. From Tony, is this how the Cowboys tank? That they will never actively choose to rebuild. They might accidentally do it through bad decisions and stuff, but this is the closest I think this team will get to organic tanking. Coaching staff's on a one-year deal. There's frustration in the building. There's a lot of injuries. You didn't have the talent because you thought you were going to have to be a 9 or 10 win team. Then you lost a bunch of guys to injuries, and you haven't played well. You haven't coached well. All of it's kind of snowballed. It's too many straws going on that camel's back that was probably already carrying its mass amount of weight possible, and it all kind of fell apart on you. This is how you end up getting a top 10, top 15 pick, top 7 pick. This scenario where it's just been too much at too many different spots for everything to overcome. I want you guys then, as we are now past the halfway point, to predict the Cowboys record. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Mark, I don't care what the market says because Dak is not a guy who puts him on his shoulders, yet pays $60 million. Bottom line is the guy has yet to beat good teams. That's the thing, though, he has. We just saw it last year. Like, I really don't understand how we can potentially pick and choose what good team wins count. Like, we don't get to count the Eagles at all last year, even though they were a playoff team. Like, we don't get to count winning multiple playoff games because those playoff teams weren't good enough. Like, I don't understand that argument. We don't get to count the Rams, even though they were a playoff team. The Lions, even though they were a playoff team. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's fine to say we want more. That's perfectly reasonable. I think we have identified what becomes too much to put on the shoulders of the quarterback because I think we saw it was already maxed out last year, and then they added more weight, and look what happened. Like, you don't have to like the market, that's fine. Then the answer is don't pay him at anything and go down the mystery box quarterback route. That's fine if that's your plan, which I know Mark was the plan, so it's fine. But I don't know. I think too often there's a tendency to only pick and choose games. If we're going to be justifiably mad about getting the butts kicked by Green Bay and San Francisco every year, to just ignore the other good parts and act like being the 7th or 8th best quarterback means you're the 17th best quarterback, I don't think that actually makes enough sense. Now, if you want to be a part of our Cowboys mailbags, you've come to the right spot. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Zay for the win. What wide receiver in this year's draft? At least I assume it's for the win. I guess it is technically Zay FTW, but I'll translate that. I think pairs well with CD. Me, I like Luther Burden. I love Luther Burden. My concern is that you spent a 4th-round pick on Jonathan Mingo, who you probably won't get to see play with your franchise quarterback now. Well, if you do, it's not very much playing time. And you're going to go, okay, this is fine. We don't need a wide receiver. We like our guys. And then we're sitting here in September going, Cowboys don't have a number 2 receiver still. That's my concern. Chris B, if we lose the next 4 games, does Mike McCarthy get fired or ride these? Now, here's the issue. The 4-game timeline is a good time, I think, to mostly revisit. Because here's what you're facing, right? You got Eagles. You're not going to fire him this week. I'd be pretty shocked if that happened. Then you go Houston Monday Night Football. Are you going to fire a coach who is then going to be on the road Wednesday to go, or on the road Saturday to go play the Commanders? Probably not. That's probably too tight of a time frame to make it realistic. Then you play Thursday against the Giants. You're probably not going to fire him before that Thanksgiving game. If you lose your next 4, if you drop to 3-9, that makes sense to me. But if you beat the Giants, like you probably should still, are you going to fire Mike after a win? No, probably not. And then you got the Bengals, which is a Sunday game, or which is another Monday night game. So are you going to fire a head coach on a Tuesday for a Sunday game on the road the next week? Not how most NFL teams operate, to be fair. This is not a most normal team. Then it's the Bucs on Sunday night. Okay, then it's the Eagles. Well, at that point, you're in week 17, week 16. Should you just allow them to ride out? That's why that Giants game stands out to me. And why I would not rule out a Cowboys saying we don't want to pay a fired coach. Freddie says, why not use Trey Lance, I assume you mean, in the Taysom Hill role? Look, there's a couple different reasons for this. In general, I would like to see Trey Lance play. I don't think there's any real downside to Trey Lance getting some playing time. The big difference I have here is, what do you mean by the Taysom Hill role? Do you mean packages at quarterback? Sure, you can give him wildcat stuff, do some low red zone looks to give him some mobility there. That's awesome. The other part of the Taysom Hill role is he also plays tight end, he plays receiver, he played running back, he played special teams. I don't think anyone actually means the Taysom Hill role with that. I don't think that's very likely. So I'm down to use him. It's not like Taysom Hill. Also, I never really liked the Taysom Hill role when you had Drew Brees. I always thought taking off Hall of Fame quarterback and putting Taysom Hill in there was kind of silly. You know? And I don't think Trey Lance is the same versatile player that, you got 30 snaps a game from Taysom Hill and not all of them were at quarterback. But I would like to use Lance in some packages. That I am on board with. So do you want to play Trey Lance? A for yes, B for no. Let me know in the comments section. Jason, is Scootmaker a bust? Why don't we try Deuce anymore? Not running right up the middle. I would like to see those guys play some this year. I kind of feel like if you lose a few more games, no disrespect meant, but giving handoffs to Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott kind of doesn't benefit you long term once you're out of it. So why bother? I'm ready to write off Luke Schoonmaker. He's played 3 offensive snaps the past 2 weeks. He's just not good. By the way, that's the one pick your head coach really, really, really pounded the table for. So, read into it however you want to. To be fair, he really wanted Trey McBride the year before, but it didn't work out that way. TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. Pick your quarterback. I'm sure we'll get this at some point. Didn't get into the mailbag today. Someone asked about taking Cam Ward at 5. I think across the board, you doesn't make sense to take a QB. outside of which it's not the case, but like the quarterback's career's over, which is not what's happening. There's not enough benefits to taking a QB at 5 because you've already paid your current guy. You don't get to make the roster that desperately needs help any better by spending your top 5 pick on a QB. You can go we're going to sit a guy for 4 years, then play him. Now you don't benefit from that rookie contract scale. So all you've done is just always have a high-paid quarterback with no benefits of having the cheap labor. And it's not a good quarterback class either. I am glad, among many few things I'm glad about, you really don't want to be in the quarterback market. Like Cam Ward is a super fun college quarterback. That guy's going to throw like 3 or 4 picks in NFL games. And you're going to be like, how? He's a gunslinger. He does some stupid stuff sometimes. He is the anti-Daniel Jones. He should probably go to the Giants, actually. I like Shadur Sanders. I'm worried about Daddy. I don't know if Shadur in Dallas is a good idea. I am very worried about Daddy influence over there. It doesn't normally work out that great. I also don't like when my quarterback throws his offensive line under the bus. Like, I don't like that. Your team needs talent. I am going to be hoping that teams fall in love with this quarterback class because depending on where you're drafting, either other guys get pushed down or you can get a team to come up and trade for one, which is always valuable because I would love this team to get an extra first-round pick in 2026 by trading down in round 1. And if it's for a QB where you can juice up the value. That'd be a great outcome. That's what I would do if QB's there at 5 or 6 or 7 or wherever you're at. I don't know if you hear that clicking. It's definitely from, I think it's my headset's a little bit crappy today, which is not great. So let me just undo this real quick. Pick your QB, TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. To start the rest of this campaign, get your votes in here. The Super Chat menu on today's show, $10 for a beer cheers, $20 for a shot. Only did 1 beer cheers. So it's like I'm wasting a whole beer. 2 5s, count it. $10 for the beer cheers, $50 for the beer bong, $500 for the custom Cowboys jersey. We're going to preview more of Cowboys Eagles. Before we do, let's play spoiler this season and play annoying team that you don't want to have to face even though they're better than you. Let's troll our host of Eagles Now, also Chase Sr. Spam FCS in the comment section of today's show. Whoever does it the most gets a free raffle entry in for Sunday's giveaway. The Cowboys are home underdogs for the first time in a long time by this level. In fact, this is the first time since the Cowboys played the Bengals all the way back in 2022 that they are a touchdown or more underdog. Not coincidentally, that is also the last time the Cowboys had to have a first start from a quarterback not named Dak. It was the first one following Dak's Bucs injury game where Rush beat the Bengals. So I'm saying there's a chance, but you are very banged up as well. Doesn't sound like good things are coming for Deron Bland in terms of being able to play in this particular matchup. I would expect Trayvon Diggs to be good to go. Tyler Guyton's been banged up, but he's played previously, or actually didn't play despite being full, so that one is kind of low-key worth monitoring, but I feel like not playing the young guys is a mistake if they're healthy. Eric Kendricks, Nick Vigil should be fine. They've battled through that previous week. CeeDee Lamb is trending towards playing. He's kind of fought through it. I'll give him credit there. Hopefully it doesn't get worse. Zach Martin's shoulder's a real red flag for me. You should have Micah Parsons back. You're not going to have Dak Prescott, obviously. Wanye Thomas has a concussion, so barring a surprise there, probably a no-go given the typical timeline to return from your concussion. Eagles-wise, seems like Devonta Smith, who did not practice Wednesday, is going to be good to go. We are filming this on our Thursday live show, so if things change, check the comments in the description. We'll update you guys with the actual injury designations. Nolan Smith battling a groin injury. He's also been a big disappointment in Philadelphia, is what it is. Backup linebacker has a concussion, been Ben Van Summeren. A.J. Brown should be fine. Dallas Goedert, Darius Slay both returned to practice this week too. So 2 different trends there. One team seemingly more healthy, the better team already. One team is not. Let's talk matchups to watch in this one. Number 1, and we're going defense heavy on these matchups, by the way. You're tackling against the Eagles playmakers. A.J. Brown, a physical wide receiver. Devonta Smith, the skinny, slim reaper who somehow always makes big plays. Love watching him. Saquon Barkley, the most explosive back in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys are tied for 8th with the most among NFL teams with the most missed tackles. Do you know what's noteworthy about that list, though? Do you know what stands out among the top 10 NFL teams that have missed the most tackles? 9 of those top 10 teams have played 9 games. The only NFL team in the top 10 missed tackles with only 8 games played are the Dallas Cowboys. Now, it's not the highest rate still. Shout out the handful of teams that have done a little bit more. Raiders, Falcons, etc. That's not an accident. You suck at tackling. You've gotten worse this year. And that's a real issue. And if you're letting Saquon Barkley make you miss and break tackles, man, he's going to want to go for 150 with ease. So what is your honest confidence level in the Cowboys beating the Eagles? Let me know in the comments of today's show, the pinned comment, actually, of today's video. We'll see how the Cowboys deploy their corners. I would not be surprised to see A.J. Brown be matched up a decent amount against Trayvon Diggs. Because Brown is more physical and also, still fast, I wonder if Diggs is a slightly better matchup there. I think A.J. Brown's going to play. He was limited this week of practice, which means he's going to be good to go. Been a bit banged up this year. He's really good at football and hasn't shown any decline. And what you'll see Philadelphia do is that they will hit you with runs and runs and runs, and then they get a single high look, and it's a bomb to A.J. Brown. It's a bomb to Devonta Smith. If they get that single high look, they will take that chunk play shot. Can you get a pick off of one of them? Trayvon Diggs is really good about doing that when it was Carson Wentz. He has also not been that good this year. I think Diggs is very much suffering from the supporting cast, his doo-doo syndrome, especially in the run game, because he's a bad run defender. He is not good in that area. Well, when the opposing team gets to run the ball a lot, it makes that player's weakness even more. If you can stop the run without him, it's a fine player. And in general, if we're really worried about the corners tackling, it means you got a lot of issues on your defense. Number 3 matchup is Jalen Hurts versus DeMarvion Overshown. I don't know how much the Cowboys will use that Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson strategy of allowing Overshown to be a spy against Hurts, but that is worth watching. That is worth considering, and how they deploy Overshown in read option looks. So they're going to do more of those attempted scrape exchanges, which he did not have a good game against the Ravens with, had a much better game against the Steelers. The last couple of weeks for Jalen Hurts, by the way, he has very much upped his play. It was a little bit of a slow, shaky start for Hurts this season. He didn't have very good games against the Saints, against the Bucks, against the Falcons, against the Packers. In fact, he had as many passing touchdowns as interceptions. He took way more sacks. The last 4 games, he has very much settled in. He has thrown 6 touchdowns against 0 interceptions over the past 4 games. Plus, he's got 6 touchdowns on the ground. He had, in fact, if you include fumbles, he hasn't fumbled in his past 4 games after fumbling 5 times in his first 4. It's been a tale of 2 quarters for Jalen Hurts. He was not very good in September. He struggled. October, November so far, he has looked more like the guy we saw earlier in his career than what we saw back in 2023. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and thankfully, Texas. They have over 10 million users. You can sign up and join them with billions of dollars in award winnings. They also invented the Flex Play, which means you can only need to get 2 out of 3 out of these right and come out on top. You can follow my picks. Garrett Wilson, more than receiving yards. I love that James Cook number. 15.5 yards on the ground. Let's ride. Tyrone Tracy against the bad Panthers defense. The don't get fired game from Brian Dable. I bet he feeds Tracy heavily. Download the app today at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Number 4 matchup to watch. It is the interior of your offense, which has not played well this year, against the interior of the Eagles' defensive line, which has been a little shaky at points. The guys you'll see the most of are Jordan Davis against the run. He has not been a good pass rusher, but his on-off splits and his just overall play, I should say, against the run has been pretty valuable. Milton Williams can rush the passer. Moro Jomo can do it. I am worried about a Jalen Carter big-time game against, Tyler Smith hasn't been as good as he was last year. I think that's an offensive line coach issue. Youngster Cooper Beebe and a banged-up Zach Martin / TJ Bass, that is not the same as it was in their prime. Number 5 element to watch is the brotherly shove against your, what I call the goal line D. I'm always a little bit surprised over how teams try to stop the brotherly shove. I don't really know, and the Cowboys have always stopped this way. Why do you go high? You going high isn't how you win a rugby-style scrum. That's all the brotherly shove is. Now, it has not been as effective. Turns out not having the greatest center ever in Jason Kelce is pretty good, or is pretty impactful. You have to go low. You have to fire off that ball low and be able to stop the push from the offensive line, and low man wins. Guess who's not good about firing off the ball low and quickly? Mozzie Smith. Not. By the way, Lynn Volchev has been actually even worse this year, which is, in terms of like the quickness, that's not a good sign. So what side of the ball do you trust more this week? O for the offense, D for the defense. Let's talk players to watch. Number 5 is Rico Dowdle. I would fully anticipate a heavier workload in the ground game because why wouldn't you? You have a backup quarterback in. If you were ever going to try to establish that run where you really haven't except on 2nd and 10s this year, now is the time to do it with Rico Dowdle. Last year, part of the reason why you had success on offense, period, was you balled out on 3rd downs. You have not balled out remotely on 3rd downs. You've gone from the best 3rd down offense last year, or at least 2nd best if you want to include the Niners as 1A, 1B, to average at best. And that's a huge difference when you were only moving the ball on 3rd downs. You need to get into, at worst, 3rd and 3s, which even then, if you're in 3rd and 4 and longer, the league averages a 40% success rate. It's not very good. You got to get some run game going. Take some pressure off your quarterback. If you're ever going to do it, this is the week. Number 4 is Terrence Steele. And inconsistency is the name of his game. He has had some trash games this season where he is just a turnstile. He has had better games this season. The difference between a good Terrence Steele game and a bad Terrence Steele game is really only 3 or 4 plays. That no matter what, in the passing game, I should say, it feels like he's going to get beat at least 3 times in pass protection. And that's not great. It's okay if you're doing a great run blocking job. He's done a pretty solid job this year, actually. The right guard hasn't been as good in the run game, and it's really showing up this year, by the way. Plus, your scheme sucks. But when he gets beat 4, 5, 6, 7 times in pass pro, that's when it all gets ugly. Now, we don't want you to not watch our live watch parties this year. We want you here. We will be here. You can come join us and we can complain and pour one out together. Hit that sub button to join our Cowboys Eagles watch party. It'd be nice to be able to poke fun at Philadelphia for beating them this year, since they really normally only have success when the backup quarterback's in anyway. YouTube.com/Cowboys TV. Go to CeeDee Lamb. If I were Mike McCarthy and I'm trying to save my job, I am going to find a way to get CeeDee Lamb double-digit touches because I have to feed him. Now, he's got the AC joint shoulder sprain. I think he'll be okay, whatever. Pain tolerance is going to be a thing. He battled through it last week. I didn't love that. I'm going to give him 15 targets and maybe some reverses, which is a reckless amount, but who the hell else am I going to throw that football to? Jalen Tolbert is who he is. He's a number 3. I don't know if Mingo's going to be active, and if he does, he might not play that much. So that leaves more Jalen Brooks, Kevontae Turpin, Ryan Flournoy. I feed Lamb. Don't overcomplicate it. Get your best guy the ball in creative ways. I am challenging Mike McCarthy to do what he hasn't done consistently when his best quarterback was in the game. And that is be creative and find ways to get the ball to your best players. As a coaching staff, you need to elevate your play calling and your designs in a way you have not done so yet. Number 2 is Micah Parsons, and seems like he'll be back. If I were Mike Zimmer, and again, I am no coach, but I do have eyeballs. This goes for CeeDee Lamb, the same conversation. I look at Philadelphia's offense line and go, okay, they've got this guy named Lane Johnson at right tackle, and that is one of the best right tackles in NFL history. I think it's him and Big Willie Anderson from the Bengals years ago. Their left tackle is Fred Johnson. I am going to put Micah Parsons over Fred Johnson on almost every single snap. Because I could try the Mekhi Becton stuff a little bit, but Fred Johnson's not very good. Run game or passing game, I am putting Micah Parsons over the Eagles' left tackle every single snap. I don't need to be creative and try to get different matchups and move them all around. I can just try to get the best matchup with the left tackle. I don't have to do a bunch of disguise. I can still do stunts and other things, but I'm putting him over Fred Johnson and saying, go win. That's how you have to do it. So does Micah Parsons get a sack this week? Y for yes, N for no. You probably knew what number 1 was going to be. It's Cooper Rush and Trey Lance. Look, the expectations are lower, as they should be. So the anger if the quarterback doesn't play well will also be lower because Rush did a fine job when we got to see him start, especially against the Vikings in 2020 and the 4 starts in 2022. He wasn't bad. He did his job. Now, the Cowboys won those games because the defense allowed less than 17 points per game. The offense still has not scored more than 3 touchdowns in any game Cooper Rush has started. That makes me worried when your current defense is terrible right now. I get those 20, or not, it wasn't 2020 for Rush. That was Dalton I'm thinking of. I'm getting those Andy Dalton 2020 Cowboys vibes where he was the backup and you were also injured and it all kind of fell apart. I would like to see Trey Lance some too. I don't trust him throwing the ball in the red zone, but I do trust him running it. I feel like if Lance doesn't ever throw, or doesn't ever run, or doesn't play, I don't really know what you're doing out there. I feel like he can give you a little bit more of a spark in terms of athletic ability than Cooper Rush can, so why not try some stuff? Now, unfortunately, that means you have to throw the Trey Lance fake run pass play in there. It's probably the first one that they're going to call once they put that package in. I don't disagree. You have to do it at some point. Hopefully it isn't a negative play in the end. So I think you'll see both Lance and Rush. Hopefully they can show some good stuff, especially showing some good stuff out of Trey Lance. Will Dak Prescott play again this year? Y for yes, N for no. Will Dak play again this year? 71% voting no. I kind of don't think you're going to see Dak play. Because I think the injury's not good. He's going to miss at least some time. I feel like your best case scenario is he's out for 4, if not 5 games, and you're going to be favored in maybe one of those 5 games, and at that point there's no points, and you should probably not, if you were 5-3 and you could ride it out and get them back after 5-6 weeks, like different conversation. If you're going to be 4-8, what's like that? You're not making a run. Let's think big picture here. I like Raheem's probably will, but he shouldn't. I could very much see. I think that's where you kind of got to protect your quarterback from himself. There are times he pushes too hard, which I appreciate. It's a double-edged sword, but protect him from himself is my mindset. That's what I would do. I want you guys to tune in for our Cowboys-Eagles watch party. Hopefully we can have some fun. Expectations will be lower, so I probably won't be as mad. I say that, but something always triggers me. Even last week, I lost my mind in the clown costume and the pot. I lose my mind once a game over something really, really stupid at some point. So hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. See you guys on Sunday.